Hello and welcome to The Scoop. We are very excited to have you join us today. We are going to be having Courtney speak about her journey that she went through with her dad. We thank you so much, Courtney, for coming and being with us today. Where did your whole journey with your parents begin? Tell us a little bit about the story.
So my parents were living in a home in the area, and my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And as that disease progressed, we had to sell their home and find a place that would suit her health needs, but also be a good community for my dad and something that would last for a long time for them.
Okay, the very first step was you had to find a place and sell their house. So
Yes.
How did you go about that? What was the first steps you took?
Well, all I can remember is the whirlwind, but honestly, I did a lot of that on my own, and I remember cleaning out their garage, and they weren't even part of what they kept and what they got rid of, and so I just basically had to get it all done quickly, and it happened so fast that it didn't even feel stressful until, further down the road.
So you moved them into an independent living community?
Yes, that's right.
When they were living in the independent living community, they were there for how long together?
They were there for just about a year together.
Okay. And then what changed?
So my mom passed away, and then my dad stayed in that community because he had such a great community of friends, and the employees were so good to him. So he was able to stay and continue there, which was wonderful. Really eased the transition.
And how long did that last?
So he lived there for about a year until we realized that his neurological illness was progressing pretty quickly. He had some balance issues, a lot of vision issues, and he really just wasn't doing very well taking his medicines and walking his dog. Just everything got a little bit overwhelming for him. So we noticed that he needed a change.
Okay, so that was a change you noticed. So did you go to him with that, or did he come to you with that?
I had to present that to him,
Okay.
and I did talk to some of the employees at where he lived and just wanted to make sure that they felt that it was time for that change as well. That way it wasn't just something that I was imagining. It was really something that was recommended by the staff there also.
So he went from independent living to assisted living at
Yes,
that time.
and he was able to stay at the same community, just go to a higher level of care within their assisted living.
Okay, so everything goes on smooth about 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then what happened? What was the turn of
So
events?
then, unfortunately, he had an accident, and he ended up in the hospital, which then placed him in a rehab, and he wasn't able to go back where he was before. He just wasn't going to be able to move around and take care of himself at that level. It was just all going to change.
So at that point, when he was in rehab, they told you he couldn't go back into the assisted living environment that he had came to them from.
Exactly. They said you have just about a week while he's here, and then upon discharge, he's going to have to be moving somewhere else.
Wow. So I just want to take a minute and kind of talk with the viewers about the difference between a type A assisted living and a type B assisted living. Many times we have families that are in this scenario, both scenarios that Courtney has already talked about with us. A type A assisted living is not required by state that they have 24-hour care in the building. They are also required to have to evacuate in the event of emergency independently. That does not mean that a type A is not going to have 24-hour care, but they're not required by the state to have 24-hour care. A type B assisted living licensure is going to require 24-hour staff in the community. They can assist with evacuation, but the resident has to at least be able to stand and pivot with minimal assistance. So I think that's important to just kind of highlight as we go through her journey, because these are some of the things that could make you need to transition into a different community or environment. And sometimes it's not a one-stop move. And as we kind of hear Courtney's story and what she had to go through with her dad and what your dad had to go through, there were a couple different moves that had to take place as he transitioned in life, emotionally, and in care needs. So at that point, they tell you have a week. What did you do? A week?
At that point, I was considerably overwhelmed.
I'm sure.
And I had been given a packet with places to live in the community, zip codes, and what they were named, and they basically told me, you can look on Google, you can map them, you can figure this out. And so it was really tough because I felt like I had so many options, and I really just didn't even know where to begin.
So at this time in your home life, tell me what you're balancing.
Oh, I was juggling 3 children at that time. 3 small children, and probably 2 jobs at the time, and my husband was a coach. So my husband was incredibly busy. I'd already lost my mom. Really, I was the sole caregiver for my dad and decision maker, other than obviously the support in my own home from my children and my husband. And my in-laws were helpful as well.
So Courtney is in that sandwich generation to where we're balancing a lot. We have jobs and careers that we're balancing, children's activities, trying to be a wife, trying to be a supportive wife, and I'm sure knowing you, trying to be successful at all of this, right?
And I'm sure I was volunteering and singing and
yeah. So how did you end up taking that list that they handed you, and where did you start?
Honestly, I started calling friends. I really didn't have anywhere else that I felt would give me the honest truth about where would they have their dad live or their relative, or where have they experienced life for their family. And so I just began reaching out and basically went places that I was referred to by people that I knew in my circle.
A week's time, how many did you visit?
I really only visited about 3.
Okay.
Because I didn't have the time to entertain the thought of anything more than that.
Okay.
And they were all just a very varied group of places. So I could see perspective. If he ended up at one, what would the benefits be? What would this other one be like? And just wanted to get a really quick lowdown on the 3 places.
And in the middle of this, how was your dad holding up?
My dad, I think, was concerned about me more than anything because he knew what I was trying to put in place for him. I think that he was frustrated that he wasn't going to be able to go back to life as he knew it. It had already been a transition to the assisted living, but he still felt relatively comfortable because it was a similar environment. But I really think that he was a little bit depressed also because he pretty much lost a voice in it. He didn't know what he needed. He knew that I would look out for his best, but he wasn't able to really say. So I would bring to his attention what I had seen and what I had found, and he actually did play a part in the choices because I wanted him to know that I valued him and that I wanted him to be part of the decision as much as possible.
How did you handle making that choice?
Honestly, it was really tough, but I had the physical therapist on site, and we actually knew one of them, so we valued their opinion, and also we would talk to the doctors that were seeing him, and we just wanted to make the best choice possible for him, and everyone's different.
Absolutely.
We also didn't fully understand his disease and what that would play out to look like for him and what his needs would be, and not many people did because that is such a rare disease that he had.
Absolutely. And like many times I tell our families as we're working with them, we can only deal with the cards that's in our hands today. We can only deal with what's on our plate today. So it's very hard to make decisions, and we could all day long list things, what if, but in all true reality, a lot of times those what ifs don't come into play. So it's so much better to deal with, kind of take a minute, take a deep breath, deal with your circumstances in your hands today. Go to someone who has resources that can help guide you, which I think that was great that you went to your friends and they were able to give you some suggestions. So from those suggestions, you chose a place.
Yes.
Okay. And how did that work out?
It didn't work out very well at all. It was stretching us financially.
Okay.
We were basically funding the difference of the cost, but we believed that was the best care that we could get for him, and it was very far for us, so it was hard to get there. It was hard on the children because it was just an environment that was difficult for them to feel comfortable at, and he wasn't really doing very well there. It just wasn't meeting his needs the way that we were expecting it to as his disease progressed.
So about how much time did it take before you had to make another move?
It was just about 6 months when we realized that it wasn't working, and it was a lot of stress to figure out, okay, we're going back where we started.
Oh my gosh.
This isn't what we thought it was going to be, and also to just overlap and pay. We couldn't pay 2 payments, so we knew that he needed to move, but we needed to get everything squared away so that we could make that transition.
So you're back to square one, so to speak. What did you do? Where did you start?
At that point, I actually went back to one of the original choices, and I ran into her at Target. It was a caregiver at a residential care home.
Okay.
And we had actually maintained a really sweet friendship over the time period.
That's great.
And that was wonderful to bump into her and know I could trust her, and she was a good listening ear for me. But not only that, but she had an opening at her home, and I just knew that was exactly the answer to our prayers, and so that worked out perfectly.
So you went to a residential care home,
Mm-hmm.
and so he went from kind of a large community to a residential care home.
Yes.
How was the transition?
It was actually wonderful because what he really wanted and needed at that point was just a home. He wanted to be home. He wanted to be loved and be part of a family. He wanted to see me and my family more often. And so it meant everything to him that we were 7 minutes away and we could literally come so much more often, and we were so much more comfortable there.
Right.
The girls felt at home, and it was like we're going to Grandpa's house.
Yeah.
And so it just was completely different, and he had the best meals, which sometimes I took part in sampling a little bit, and honestly it was just a great experience for us overall, and I wish that I would have known about it sooner, but I'm still thankful for the gift that it came in our lives.
So as you all have heard today, Courtney had quite a few steps in her journey, and not necessarily do what I say by even hearing this, working with a lot of families. Sometimes that happens. Unfortunately, sometimes it does end up having to be that way. What would be some advice, Courtney, that you would give our listeners if that you feel like from your experience that would be good advice for them?
I would say, first of all, had I known that there were advocates out there like me in the situation I'm in now with Abundant, I would have absolutely benefited from having someone knowledgeable and caring and able to have the resources to guide me and take me to the places better for our family and for our budget and for my dad. So using a resource. Also, I would say, like you mentioned, we can only prepare for the current step.
Right.
So we can all worry and wonder and anticipate the things that can come our way, but honestly, we just know what's happening today, and the best thing that we can do is just honor our family by addressing what's going on right this very second and living in the moment without all that extra worry.
And I just kind of want to tag in on that. So at Abundant Senior Living Solutions, Courtney has now taken her situation that she went through with her dad, and she is now a senior advocate helping families that were in her situation help other families. I personally think that that is the best way. I have been working in the senior living industry for 15 years, and I've walked with a lot of families, and it wasn't until I had to experience it with my own family do you truly understand. It puts your heart in a different place. So passion, you can't teach passion, right? It's there. So if you have that love for seniors and that passion that goes along with it. So she is now a senior advocate, Courtney is, and she was so kind to share her journey that she went through with her dad with us today. And I just want to take a minute to let you all know at Abundant Senior Living Solutions, we help seniors and their families walk through this every single day. So we're going to be bringing different speakers to our show that's going to either educate you or inform you on things that are hard topics to really have. I mean, these are not necessarily easy conversations. Hopefully this education will be able to help many of our viewers overcome struggles that they may face, which is what the scoop is all about. Seniors can overcome obstacles proactively. So now listen, after hearing everything Courtney and her dad went through, I do not want anyone to have to go through this journey alone. That's what we're here for. So give us a call. We have our number at the bottom of the screen. We're here to answer your questions. Even if it's something you think is a crazy question, I say there's no such thing as a crazy question. So call us and know that Abundant Senior Living Solutions, we're here for you.